Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're digging into some uh, really compelling source material, excerpts from a foundational text, both historical and religious. And it drops us right into this, well, critical moment, a real turning point in the story of Jacob and his father-in-law Laban.
Yeah, this isn't just some minor disagreement. We're talking about the climax of what, 20 years? 20 years of complex dealings, shifting goalposts.
Definitely some perceived injustices flying around.
Oh, absolutely. On both sides, you could argue. And the tension is just palpable. It leads straight to this dramatic split, a confrontation.
Exactly.
Yep.
So our mission here in this deep dive is to kind of unpack all that. We want to look at the motivations, what's really driving these people? What's the core conflict? There's some surprising twists, too.
Big ones.
And then how they eventually sort of hammer out a resolution.
Yeah.
An ancient type of agreement, a covenant.
Right. And when you really look closely at the details the source gives us, you see these very personal dynamics bumping up against bigger things. Cultural norms, divine guidance, it all shapes this massive break.
So where does the source kick things off? It sounds like things have been souring for a bit.
Yeah, Jacob starts noticing it, a real shift in Laban's attitude towards him, a coldness.
And maybe more importantly.
He overhears Laban's sons. They're grumbling, basically saying, Jacob's gotten rich off our dad. He's taken everything.
Oof, that's not good. That kind of talk from the heirs.
Exactly. That feeling, combined with Laban's chilliness, it just makes the situation, well, untenable for Jacob. He decides, okay, time's up. I need to go home.
But it's not just Jacob being fed up, is it? The source makes a point about something else.
A really critical element, divine instruction. God speaks to Jacob directly, tells him, return to the land of your fathers and to your kindred, and I will be with you.
I will be with you. That's a huge promise.
It's the green light Jacob needs. It gives him the push, so he calls Rachel and Leah out into the field.
Away from the main house, significantly.
Right, for privacy. And he lays it all out for them, explains why he wants to leave, justifies the whole thing.
Okay, so what's his case?
He points to Laban's changed attitude, first off, despite Jacob working incredibly hard for like 20 years.
And he gets specific about the unfairness.
Oh, yeah. He accuses Laban of cheating him, not just once or twice. 10 times he changed his wages.
10 times. Wow.
And what's really fascinating is how Jacob frames this. He says, yeah, Laban kept changing the rules. Okay, the speckled ones are yours. No, wait, the striped ones. Actually, the spotted ones.
Making it impossible to get ahead, presumably.
That was the intent, Jacob argues, but he says God kept intervening. God made sure that whatever Laban last decided was Jacob's wage, that's the kind of animal that would suddenly be born in abundance.
So God was, like, manipulating sheep genetics to pay Jacob.
That's Jacob's claim. He says God was overriding Laban's attempts to shortchange him, ensuring he got paid according to Laban's own constantly shifting terms.
Does he have proof beyond just the results?
He recounts a dream, a very vivid dream where he saw the male goats mating, and they were all the streaked, speckled, spotted kind.
The kind Laban didn't want him to have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in the dream, an angel appears, identifies himself as the god of Bethel.
Ah, referencing that earlier pivotal moment in Jacob's life, the vow he made.
Right. And this angel confirms it. I have seen all that Laban is doing to you, and then gives the direct command, leave this land now and return to your native land.
So it's not just Jacob feeling wronged, it's God confirming the injustice and ordering the departure.
That's the case he makes. It's a divinely sanctioned escape from exploitation, backed up by direct experience and heavenly confirmation. He's building a very solid argument for Rachel and Leah.
How do they take it? His wives. I mean, it's their father he's accusing.
Well, the source says their reaction is immediate and strong, full support for Jacob.
No hesitation about leaving Dad.
None reported. In fact, they voice their own complaints against Laban. They say, look, we don't have any inheritance left here anyway. They feel Laban has treated them like, quote, foreign women, basically like outsiders with reduced rights.
Because he sold them.
That's their wording. He sold them to Jacob, referring to the bride price or the value Jacob worked for. And then, they claim, Laban just wasted that money. It didn't benefit them.
Wow. Treated like foreign women, sold us. That really paints a picture of how they felt valued, or rather not valued.
It absolutely does. It shows their own sense of grievance and maybe powerlessness in their father's household. And then they make this key statement about Jacob's wealth.
The flocks and herds he's built up.
Right. They say all that wealth, which God took from Laban and gave to Jacob, actually belongs to them and their children. It's their security, their inheritance now.
So they're completely aligned with Jacob's view. It's not Laban's anymore.
Totally. Their final word to him is basically, do whatever God told you to do. Green light.
Okay, so the family is united. God's given the signal. Time for the getaway.
Jacob gets everything ready. Wives, children onto the camels, gathers up all the livestock, all the possessions he'd accumulated in Padanaram destination.
Canaan.
And the timing is key here, right? Crucial. The source mentions Laban was away shearing his sheep. That often happened at a distance, giving Jacob the window he needed.
They seized the opportunity. But there's a complication added by Rachel.
A major one, with big fallout later. The text explicitly says Rachel stole her father's household idols.
The teraphim.
Yes, the teraphim. And this is so interesting because, well, scholars debate their exact function. They weren't just religious figures.
Right. There's speculation they could relate to, what, legal rights?
Possibly. Title to property, maybe inheritance claims. So stealing them might be more than just taking religious items. It could be an attempt to secure some kind of legal or familial standing, or maybe just spite. Or both.
That adds a whole other layer to why she did it.
Yeah.
And why Laban gets so upset later.
Definitely. Meanwhile, Jacob's plan is all about stealth. The source uses the phrase, he outwitted Laban the Aramean.
Sneaking off without a word.
No goodbye party, no farewell song, just gone. They cross the Euphrates River, head towards the mountains of Gilead.
And they get a head start.
A 3-day head start. But then Laban gets the news.
And he reacts quickly.
Immediately. Gathers his kinsmen, sets off in pursuit. It's a long chase.
7 days, the source says.
7 days later, he catches up to Jacob's camp in the hill country of Gilead. Laban was clearly determined.
But something happens just before the confrontation. Another intervention.
Yes, absolutely pivotal. The night before Laban reaches Jacob, God appears to Laban in a dream.
And the message is?
Unmistakable. A direct warning. The text quotes it as something like, be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad. Or in some versions, I'm warning you, leave Jacob alone.
Wow. So God basically tells Laban, don't touch him, don't even threaten him.
Pretty much. It puts a major constraint on Laban right as he's about to confront Jacob, presumably full of anger.
So Laban arrives in Gilead. He's got his relatives with him. He's angry, but he's also got this divine warning ringing in his ears.
Exactly. So he confronts Jacob, and he definitely vents. He doesn't hold back the accusations.
What does he say?
He accuses Jacob of deception, obviously, of carrying off his daughters like they were prisoners of war.
Ouch. Strong language.
Very. He says Jacob acted foolishly, sneaking away without letting him say goodbye, kiss his grandkids, have a proper send-off with music and celebration.
Which, from his perspective might seem fair.
Right. And then he hits the main point, the thing that seems to really bother him the most.
The stolen gods.
Why did you steal my gods? He does acknowledge God's warning, saying something like, I have the power to harm you, but the God of your father warned me last night.
So he admits he was going to do something.
It's implied. He says he understands Jacob longing for home, fine. But the theft of the idols, that's the big crime here.
Okay, so Jacob's on the spot. How does he respond to all this? Laban's angry, but also divinely restrained.
Well, first Jacob addresses the sneaking away part. He says flat out, I was afraid. I thought you would take your daughters from me by force.
Which, given Laban's track record, maybe wasn't an unreasonable fear.
Probably not, no. It speaks to the lack of trust there. Then he tackles the stolen gods issue.
And he has no idea Rachel took them.
None at all. Which leads him to make this incredibly bold and frankly dangerous challenge. He tells Laban, search everywhere. If you find your gods with anyone here, that person shall not live.
He basically pronounces a death sentence on the thief.
Without knowing it's his own wife. He's that confident they haven't stolen anything. He adds, point out anything here that's yours and take it.
High stakes indeed.
Right.
Laban takes him up on the offer.
Oh, yeah. He goes through Jacob's tent, Leah's tent, the tents of the two maidservants.
And then Rachel's tent.
Finally, Rachel's tent. And this is where her quick thinking, or perhaps premeditated plan, comes in.
She hid them already.
Yes, the source says she put the teraphim inside her camel's saddlebag and then sat on it.
Just sat right on top of them.
Bold move, and when Laban comes into search, she plays her card.
The excuse.
The excuse. She apologizes. Sorry, Dad can't get up for you. Claims she has her period.
Which, in that culture, would be a perfectly valid reason. Ritual impurity, respect.
Exactly. It effectively stops Laban from making her move or searching too closely around her. Very clever, very calculated.
So Laban searches her tent, searches everywhere, but finds nothing.
Absolutely nothing. And this is the turning point. Laban's main accusation, the theft, falls flat. And Jacob, well, Jacob's fear and defensiveness just erupt into anger.
Righteous indignation.
Big time. The source says he became very angry. He turns the tables on Laban. What's my crime? What sin have I committed that you hunt me down like this?
He throws the challenge back.
Completely. You've searched everything. What have you found? Show us. Put it here in front of everyone.
And then he launches into his own defense.
Oh, does he ever? He gives this incredibly detailed account of his 20 years of service. 14 years for the daughters, 6 for the flock. He lists the hardships.
What kind of details?
He talks about caring for the flocks, how none miscarried under his watch, how he never ate Laban's own rams, how he bore the loss if animals were killed by wild beasts or stolen day or night. He paid Laban back for them.
So he's highlighting his integrity and Laban's gain.
And his own suffering. Working through scorching heat by day, freezing cold by night, losing sleep. It's a powerful testimony of his labor.
And he brings up the wages again.
Yes, he hammers that point home. You changed my wages 10 times. He directly contrasts Laban's unfairness with divine protection.
Saying God saved him from ruin.
Explicitly, he says if it weren't for the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac, he would have been sent away empty-handed. He says God saw his hardship, saw Laban's mistreatment, and that's why God intervened the night before. That's why God rebuked Laban in the dream.
Wow. So Jacob basically calls God as his witness and defender against Laban's exploitation. That's quite a counterattack.
It really is. He turns Laban's own mention of the dream back on him as proof of divine judgment.
How does Laban react to that? He's been accused, searched, found nothing, and now Jacob's invoking God's rebuke against him.
It seems to significantly change Laban's tune. He kind of backs down. He still makes this face-saving claim like, well, these daughters are mine, the children are mine, the flocks are mine, everything you see is mine.
A bit of bluster.
Yeah, but he immediately follows it up with, but what can I do today about these daughters or their children? It's like he's admitting defeat. He knows he can't really touch Jacob or take anything back, likely because of God's warning and Jacob's fierce defense.
So the confrontation doesn't lead to violence, which it easily could have.
No. Instead, Laban pivots. He proposes making a covenant, a formal agreement between them.
As a witness.
That's his word. Come now, let us make a covenant, you and I, and let it be a witness between you and me.
Okay, so they shift from confrontation to negotiation. How do they make this covenant?
They do it right there in Gilead. Jacob takes a large stone, sets it up as a pillar, a monument.
A marker.
Exactly. Then he tells his kinsmen to gather stones, and they make a heap, a pile of stones. And they eat a meal together there, beside the pile on the pillar, a covenant meal.
These physical actions, the stones, the meal, they were really important for sealing these kinds of agreements back then, weren't they?
Absolutely. They made the agreement tangible, visible. The stones are witnesses. The shared meal symbolizes peace and commitment. And the names they give the place reinforce this.
Right. Laban calls it something in Aramaic.
Jagar Sahadutha, which means witness pile.
And Jacob calls it
Galid, same meaning witness pile, but in Hebrew.
Yeah.
So they both agree this pile is a witness between us.
It also gets another name, one that's become very well known.
Mizpah, meaning watchtower. And Laban explains the significance. May the Lord watch between you and me when we are out of one another's sight.
That idea of God watching over the agreement when they're apart.
Precisely. It invokes divine oversight. And Laban lays out his terms focused on his daughters.
What does he demand?
He makes Jacob promise not to mistreat his daughters and not to take any other wives besides them. And he explicitly says, God is witness between you and me on this point.
So the stones are witnesses, and now God is the ultimate witness and enforcer.
Yes. And the pile and pillar also serve as a boundary marker.
A physical line they shouldn't cross.
Exactly. Neither party is supposed to pass beyond this heap and pillar to harm the other. Laban then invokes the God of their shared ancestors, Abraham and Nahor, as a judge between them if the covenant is broken.
It's a serious commitment, grounded in physical markers, oath, and calling on divine judgment.
Very serious. Jacob then swears his own oath, specifically by the fear of his father Isaac, his own unique way of referring to God.
And then,
After the oaths, Jacob offers a sacrifice on the mountain, sealing the covenant with God. They hold the feast, share the meal, and everyone spends the night there.
a resolution of sorts.
A resolution. The next morning, Laban gets up early, kisses his grandchildren and daughters goodbye, blesses them, and then he turns around and goes home. Jacob continues on his way. The separation is complete, formalized by this covenant.
So when we step back and look at this whole story from the source text,
Yeah.
it's incredibly rich, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
You've got these tangled family dynamics, business mixed with marriage, years of resentment boiling over,
And the consequences of deception, Jacob's secret flight, Rachel's theft.
but also Jacob standing up for himself after feeling exploited for so long.
Right.
And finally, this attempt to find some kind of peace, or at least separation, through a formal agreement after all that conflict.
Yeah, it really shows how these, very human feelings, anger, fear, resentment, love, deceit, drive the action. But then you also have these moments of divine intervention that seem to steer things away from outright disaster towards this negotiated boundary.
Galid, Jagar Sahadutha, Mizpah, Witness Pile, Watchtower, those names really stick, carrying the weight of that moment.
They absolutely do. They mark the spot, both physically and symbolically.
It leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it? Here's a thought for you. This covenant at Galid Mizpah, it created a clear line, a physical boundary, a spiritual one watched over by God. But given everything that happened, the 20 years of mistrust, the accusations, Laban feeling robbed, Jacob feeling cheated, Rachel's hidden theft that never actually came out, did this covenant truly resolve anything fundamental between them?
Or was it more like a ceasefire?
Exactly. Was it about healing the relationship, or was it just a practical necessity, a way to manage the separation and prevent future conflict now that trust was likely completely gone? Did it fix the problems, or just put up a fence?
A really interesting question about what peace agreements actually achieve sometimes.
Definitely something to ponder.
Yeah.
That wraps up our deep dive into this dramatic separation and covenant between Jacob and Laban. Thanks for joining us.